I am a graduate student, and at the last minute, maybe a couple months ago, I changed my major to coaching from nonprofit management. And just fast forward, I am taking a course right now. You were one of the first people I thought of when they put out an assignment where we had to actually interview some real coaches.
Okay.
And so I appreciate you getting back to me so much. The questions hopefully are painless, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I did want to start out with just what got you into the profession of coaching.
Okay. So when I was in corporate America, and I was in corporate America for a very limited time, I just now realized that a couple of days ago. But when I was in corporate America, prior to then, I was in an internship program for minorities where they pretty much groomed us to be on a business track. And even though I never wanted to study anything in business when I went to college, because I was a psychology major and I always wanted to study psychology since middle school. But even though I was not on a business track, they allowed me to be in the internship program, and I was able to gain huge value from participation in that program while I was in high school. So I believe in my senior year in high school, carrying over into my entire collegiate career, I was involved in that internship program. So once I did enter corporate America, based off of the foundations that were created from that program, I was able to very rapidly move up the corporate ladder at a very young age. And I saw, everything that I gained, and I really wanted to just give that back. So what I thought I wanted to do was go into human resources and training and development. So I wanted to be into personal and professional development. So I knew I wanted to have a personal component because there are so many things internally and I would say aesthetically, but personal aesthetics, just how you groom yourself, how you carry yourself, the standard that you create, and professionally also skills, talents, experience that I wanted to be able to feed back into others. So I thought it was, human resources, training and development. I didn't realize until after I left corporate America that coaching even existed. And it was really a chance phone call. I was working at the time as a business manager. So I did things in such a way where others ended up asking me to manage their business. So I was a cross between business consultant, business manager. And I was asking some questions to a colleague about how to set up my business in multiple states, because I've kind of been between two states for about 6 years now. And I told him, he asked me, okay, well, what is it that you're doing now? What is it that you hope to do? And so I had done some research on coaching a couple years prior to that phone call. And I said, right now, this is what I'm doing. In the future, I want to get into life coaching. And he said, well, would you mind if I forward your information over to a young lady who has a business ministry geared towards coaches? And I said, no problem. I would love to have a conversation. And I thought it was going to be a conversation, but I signed up with her program right after our phone call. So that is the path that got me to coaching.
That is amazing. Well, we think we're doing one thing.
Right.
And end up somewhere completely different.
Right.
You may have heard me when you mentioned HR. That just kind of blew me over the top because
right.
I have my undergrad studies was in human resource management.
Right.
And it's so funny that you would say that because I totally thought that that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I went for that degree, and I'm just like, I just know I want to help people, so I just figured the HR degree just made sense. I didn't have a concentration. I love when any job I would be in, I would get pulled. It didn't matter where I was. I would get pulled to, start training others to do what I had done.
Right.
So I thought I was on the right track for a long time.
Right.
And so it was refreshing to hear you say that.
Oh, right. Right. I can share that too because I moved up rapidly, but I was, ended up being a team lead and they created jobs around me. So I really did think that training and development was what I wanted to do, because most of what I did consisted of creating tutorials and, working with systems and then training people on these systems. So I thought too that I was on the right track. I really did.
Wow. That's amazing to hear. I'm just jotting down a few notes. So you said that you were working, your business was between 2 different states. I'm just curious, where you're from and what states do you do business when you mentioned that you were in between 2 states?
Okay, so I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida, and at the time I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. So my company, I worked for the University of Phoenix. So I had worked for the University of Phoenix in Orlando, Florida. And then with that company, I transferred to Atlanta. So when my job with that company was dissolved, I was in Atlanta and I just decided to take a vacation back home. And that's kind of really what set this path, totally unplanned path, where I am right now. So now, since then, I have moved back to Jacksonville, and it's been a great platform to, catapult my business based off of the networks and all of the things that I had created over the span of a lifetime. It's been very beneficial to my growth as a coach now.
That is awesome. Wow, that's amazing. So you're back in Jacksonville, Florida. This isn't one of my required questions, but I'm just curious, is most of your coaching done in person now that you're back in your home state, or do you do both, over the phone or Skype, or is it just in person?
That's a great question. So I moved back to Jacksonville because God told me to. At the time, I was totally just wanting to be obedient. I wasn't necessarily a fan of moving back to Jacksonville, but I was not opposed to it at all because as an entrepreneur, I created so many fabulous relationships. But what I did was I moved back to Atlanta. So I was, like I said, I worked in Atlanta. So when the position was dissolved, I moved to Jacksonville on vacation, but it ended up being a 2-year vacation, and it was only supposed to be 2 weeks. So once I was like, oh, okay, well, I think I want to start back working, quote unquote, again, I moved back to Atlanta because I thought that would be a more ideal place for me to go back into a corporate career. And I probably stayed there for 2 years. And, I began building my business as an entrepreneur. But even at the time, all of my connects were virtual. They got lucky if they saw me in person, because even with me being between 2 cities, I really did do a lot of travel between Jacksonville and Atlanta during those few years. But even with me being, whether I was local to you or not, I built my business around my goal to travel. Okay. So I never wanted to just be in one place because I wanted to create, since I had so much control, I wanted to create the type of luxury where I could work for you anywhere in the world, not just the US, not just the state, not just, I wanted to be able to get up and go because I experienced so much travel during those first few years that I didn't want to lose that. I felt like it was a privilege to be an entrepreneur. So why create something that was the same as corporate if I had the flexibility to do it differently? So that being said, even now, I don't do a lot of in-person coaching. I have been doing I do group things, but my one-on-one clients I probably never have one-on-one clients in person unless it's something that's more casual. But my formal clients, I always coach them virtually, even if you're probably right up the street from me. And that's just a personal preference, a professional preference as well. But in group settings, I do those locally, and it's typically with women. But I've also been asked to come and speak to pastors and leadership teams. So those are the settings where I do in-person training, coaching, but it's always like a group coaching that I'll do in person versus having my one-on-one clients be in person. I don't ever do that.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Larger numbers.
Exactly.
Okay. That is awesome. I'm sorry?
I said exactly what you were saying to yourself. That's exactly the reason. Yeah.
amazing. That makes total sense. I mean, I admire your ability to build your business around your goals and how you prefer it to be. Just the fact that we can do that now is just amazing. Just the opportunities just seem like they're endless, and this is really making me excited. Let me get to my professor's question. So, for you, how would you say, if I were to ask you, how does coaching work? And I know that this question for both my professor and then for myself, I just want to speak around the question a little bit. A lot of times we see everyone as a coach. And there's some people who's asking me, what am I studying right now? And I'm studying organizational leadership. My concentration is coaching. And when I look out in the world and social media, everybody's a coach.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to dig a little deeper, and I wanted it to have meaning. And this week we're discussing a lot around credentialing and things. But if I were to ask you, how does it work in from your perspective? What would you tell me if I were to ask, how does it work? What is it to you?
Okay. I am going to answer. I'm going to give you a very detailed answer, and it's from my professional experience, amongst other things. I'm going to try not to provide you with my opinions, but just from what I see. Okay. So here's the thing. Coaching, for one, it's a lifestyle. I run across people because coaching, as much as there is oversaturation in some areas, there's also a very unique misunderstanding of what coaching actually is. Okay, so that's universal. It's not just the coaches sometimes who don't know, but it's also the community and also our clients who don't know. So what happens as a coach, especially as a new coach, you'll typically be the first person in your environment. Outside of your educational environment, you'll be the first person in your social, professional, personal, spiritual environments that is a coach. Okay, so you'll have to come out of the gate during a lot of education. Okay, just informing people on what it is. And the education, the only education they're getting is coming from you. So if you have a quote unquote misunderstanding of what it is, then your networks will be misunderstanding what it is. And then you ultimately are going to deter your ability to be successful because you probably provided them with something that's not correct. That's just an example, not particularly, you per se, but just generally speaking. Reason being is because coaching is such a highly sought after industry for those who are the professionals. We may not always get the credentialing, get the experience, exposure that we need. Some of us, not yourself, obviously, but some of us just tack it onto our name because I've been mentoring. So I'm a coach. I've been helping people with resumes. So I'm a coach. I always give my friends advice. So I'm a coach, and just don't have a full enough understanding to then be able to explain it to others. So going back to my original statement, coaching is a lifestyle. It's very difficult to be a coach if you don't boast some internal characteristics and traits. For example, positivism. You can hardly be a coach without being a positive person. You just can't. You're in your way and you probably won't even see it, which is the biggest challenge. So that, amongst other things, kind of limits a coach's ability to be successful. So when you say what is coaching, for me, first and foremost, it is a lifestyle. It's definitely something that can be trained. There can be some amplification of what's already in you. But for the most part, coaching traits are something that's already there. For us, we thought it was training and development. We thought it was our ability to grasp something and then to be able to quickly teach it to others and facilitate learning and training. But there's also those people who have always been coaching by providing advice, by mentoring, so on and so forth. So then we match that with education and some type of curriculum, some type of credentialing, and then we begin to get a fuller understanding of what coaching is, and we can thusly inform our community. So all of that to say that sometimes it gets mixed up with therapy, counseling, all of those things that I know you've learned in your schooling. But what it is, it's a method. My definition of coaching is helping people to go further faster. Okay. As a coach, I tap into the skill that a person already has, and it's my job to amplify what you already have. It's my job to get you a fuller grasp of who you are and what we're going to do with who you are. As a Christian life coach, it's my job to amplify what God has already given you. It's my job to give you a fuller understanding of your awareness through God and the awareness of Him and how He has positioned you and will use you. So what do we do when coaching? Is I take a person who's already whole and I help you walk out what is your purpose, your God-given purpose, your professional purpose, your personal purpose. And that in the, very detailed way is what we do as coaches. Now the challenge, and this is the part where I don't want to provide my opinion, but my experience has been that many coaches don't often see themselves. We're so accustomed to being the go-to person, and we may not find ourselves in networks of other coaches who can groom us and other people who we can also respect to groom us. So we don't have anyone coaching us in a lot of cases. So sometimes you'll find coaches who you're the relationship coach, but you're very bitter and broken. You're the love coach, but most of what you might put out may come off as negative, or just making sure that the coach himself or herself is a whole person so that we can put off a lot of positive energy. And it's not to say that we're not realistic with our clients or ourselves, but it is to say that coaching should not come from the framework of negativity, or else we're now counseling or providing therapy or providing mental services. And that's just not what coaches do. And that's not what coaching is. How's that?
Awesome. You actually touched on the second question from her. If you wanted to elaborate a little more in that area, great. But I did grab a few things from what I'm about to ask. How do you incorporate your faith into your coaching? What's going to come after how coaching works? And I like what you said. Is there anything you may want to add on now that you know that was going to be my next question?
Oh, absolutely. So I find that as a life coach, as a Christian life coach, most of what I end up doing, and I'm so thrilled to be in the position to do so and to witness the blossoming of my clients in this area. But most of what I end up doing is what I would like to call spiritual coaching. It's not to say that a person is a good Christian, bad Christian, devout Christian, or in progress Christian, but it is to say that we understand that I am a Christian. Okay, all of my clients are not Christian, but it is to say that I help a person to increase that awareness, something I mentioned earlier, that spiritual awareness. It may not necessarily even be a religious awareness initially, but because of who I am, it ultimately finds itself to a religious conversation. And most times it's probably my clients who bring it up. But you will see within working with me a certain standard, a certain way of doing things. And I don't shy away from my religion, even in my professional engagements. Okay. So, because again, it's a lifestyle, my religion is also my life, so, with Christian coaching, how I mesh that with just coaching itself is what is going to ultimately be spiritual coaching for my clients. And that just means that I'm helping them develop themselves spiritually. In some cases, it might be meditative processes as far as learning practices of self-control, learning how to curb anxiety or anxiety attacks. So, breathing techniques, things that'll help keep a person calm. Even journaling activities are very meditative in nature. One of the coaching methodologies that I use in these cases is what I call walk chats. And this was presented to me by another of my colleagues. And it's essentially just a conversation while walking. Walking typically is going to be something that's very soothing. So we'll walk and discuss at the same time. I typically, if I am working with a client who needs to move forward in a certain direction, I'm typically going to want to coach that person while moving. Okay, so that the activity of moving also plays into the conversation subconsciously. And so with the spiritual coaching, again, it's just increasing that person's awareness. Sometimes we like to live in this world where we would like to think that religion and state are separate. And they're not. We are spiritual beings. Whether you're Christian or not, we're spiritual beings. So with the spiritual coaching, just end up giving people something bigger than themselves to believe in. And I believe that's the difference. One of the main differences between Christian coaching and quote unquote secular coaching is that I'm giving you something that's larger than you, so where you can put your faith, your action in something that taps supernatural, and it outlasts your own abilities, so that even when we have our coaching goals and our actions, that I don't always have to depend on myself. And sometimes that's a relief.
That is awesome. Awesome. All right, we have kind of already touched on this earlier, the services that you provide. I'm excited. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about, and I guess I was able to see this, even though, I didn't reach out until now. I doubt very seriously if this would be my last time speaking with you. But I definitely want to talk a little bit about what's included in forming and cultivating a coaching relationship. And I'll say in this one, in your opinion, just in terms of getting it started, or, how does it come about? Well, what all is included in forming that coaching relationship with your client?
Okay. I'll answer that one starting with value. So I serve as a mentor to teens, but I also mentor women in business. And one thing I often teach my women in business is that we have to provide value. Many times we're trying to sell a person on something, and we feel like that is what we're supposed to be doing. We're in business, so we need business, so let me sell you something. But before I can garnish or even request your business, I think it's very respectable of me to provide you with some value up front. So as much as I possibly can, I like to engage my clients on that foundation of providing value, some huge value, even life-changing value up front, so that, for one, it helps me to see the type of individual I am going to be working with, but prior to my even working with them. So there are some people who, even though there's free value, they may not take advantage of it. And if there is free value that a person may not take advantage of, I'm very selective with my clients. So I like people who are hard workers, dedicated workers. And most of us typically are going to take advantage of those things that we paid for because I put some money on it. But I want to work with people who can take advantage of what they did not have to pay for, because that shows me how you're going to work for what you did pay for. So I like to provide value, and I am a very personable individual, and that means when you work with me as your coach, I tend to pay a lot of attention to everything else that's going on in your life. Not that, whatever we did discuss, and for those people who I do know in person or locally, I tend to develop relationships that will stand the test of time, relationships that will withstand the terms of our coaching relationship. So I present myself in a way where we end up having the ability to be family. Okay. I don't make it so close that it's uncomfortable for me as a coach or uncomfortable for my client, but my clients will know that I am a resource even if you're not my client right now, you know. So I have very, 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 uh, I, like, you know, my relationship with my clients is a very in depth. You know, it goes below the surface. It's not just surface. You're my client. You're the next dollar. You're just something I check off my list. You pay my bills. It's, you know, it's something that's this real love there. You know, I really love, honor, respect my clients, and the value there is value for me as well as value for them. So my clients do probably more for me sometimes than what I do for them, just because of the love that I have for my clients.
I think that's all I need. That was amazing. It's so funny how I'm supposed to be doing a homework assignment, obviously, but my brain is just all over the place as you're speaking. I love the idea. In our conversations over the past couple of weeks, and with my classmates, we have not really discussed anyone who was doing group coaching. So this is not a question from my coursework.
Okay.
When you're doing group coaching, I know that sometimes you'll go out and probably speak on a particular topic. But outside of that, is there like intimate style group coaching going on where you're discussing the personal issues and whatnot with a group of individuals?
Absolutely.
So I guess I'm just trying to get a little bit more understanding around the group coaching, but not when you're going out speaking on leadership with pastors and things.
Right.
One feel, but with a group.
Right. So yes, I have group conversations, and sometimes the topic may be picked for me, but most of the time when I do my group coaching, I select the topic because I want to fill a void that may not be being filled any other way. And I also do group coaching for something that you probably picked up on. So I am not an inexpensive coach, right? I'm a coach who probably totally knows my value and has no problem tapping into that value. All right. And my business experience makes me respect that value. I provide group coaching services because while I do understand my platform, my target audience, my market, things like that, I still want coaching to be something that is a resource to others who one-on-one you may not be able to, engage me on that particular level, but in a group we can get a lot done. So what I typically do for my groups, many times I actually may provide group coaching services for free. If I see that there's a need, especially if it's in my immediate circles, if I'm seeing a theme with the ladies that I talk to or my colleagues and their friends and families and clients, then I myself may create a series or something to where all women could take advantage of it. Sometimes I charge, sometimes I don't. Most of the times if I do something like that, I have it in a venue where the venue can benefit. For example, a restaurant, a cafe, a lounge, something like that, because that's my way of giving back to the community. So the income and the dollars in those settings don't have to be my dollars, but I'm giving back because of the content, because of the discussion, because of the quote unquote ladies night out, and also the value in dollars that the venue might be able to bring in. But yes, I typically choose the topics, and it does get very personal. So sometimes, depending on the topic, I may have it in-house, and if I have something at my house, I typically know you and I love you a whole lot for you to come into my house, because that's like my sanctuary. But we have a lot of in-depth detailed things, and there's always Kleenex. So it gets real. It gets really real. It gets emotional. So for example, I've been doing a prayer series all year long. So on second Saturdays, I've been doing Women in Prayer, and we have a different topic each month. And there have been myself and a couple other speakers, but they're always crying, and I say they because I'm trying to help. I can't be crying too. Um,
Right.
we can't all be in here, snotting and slobbing and stuff, but it happens.
Right.
It happens. And my goal there is because, for example, I provide and advertise that it's going from 10 to 12 every single Saturday except this yesterday. We go from about 10 to 2. And I don't give them a limit on, oh, it's 12, let's go. Because I understand that women may not, even with our friends, even with our accountability partners, even with our besties, we may not have those environments where we get to let our hair down. So I don't give them a limit. And they stay until 2 o'clock. And that's perfectly fine. I don't in any way, shape, or form rush them, and a lot of them, after we're done, they would like to stay around and have one-on-one conversations. So we'll even, shut the building down, but they'll still be outside talking. And then sometimes I try to go to lunch and invite some of them to come to lunch. So it ends up being an all-day affair, even though it's supposed to be 2 hours. And it's free for them, so it's like soul food. And maybe I sleep for the rest of that day and cutting into some of the next day, but it's all worth it because of the value that I know is provided there for those women. And it's taken me a process to learn this, but as I grow spiritually, then I'm able to do a lot of these things, not attaching it to dollars and cents, but attaching it to what makes sense. So I'm totally fine with that being a free engagement.
Wow. That is amazing. I admire what you're doing. That is just amazing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, you are very welcome. Thank you so much. I have 2.5 pages of notes. And so I would just really, really appreciate you taking the time out to answer questions for me. I am only in my second course. I have several books here that I haven't even opened up just yet. But you really, really opened up some things to me in terms of, are you going to move forward with this? I'm kind of struggling with clarity. In terms of which way I want to go. And that's kind of why after I read over the coaching concentration, it was in the beginning, let's just give this a shot. But, after speaking with you and just kind of diving into the second course, I'm feeling more and more like, this is something that I definitely want to do.
Good.
So I totally would love to connect with you again in the future in some capacity. I think coaches need coaches too, right?
Right.
So it just makes sense. And just clearing that up for me, just the big one for me was you go out there in social media and it's just everyone is a coach, and the way you broke it down, it makes sense. You want to take it. You won't be taken seriously if you're not really clear on what it is, and I think that's what I'm digging for. And I know that this assignment is going to give me some of that clarity in terms of just seeing what some real professional coaches, feel that the profession is and what it means to them. Will kind of help me get some clarity on my direction as well.
Absolutely.
So I am excited. I totally would want to connect with you in the future. I'm not sure, how or what my first steps would be, but I would love to, have another chat with you in the future sometime.